have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And look at my tie this week.
I know, I saw. You have kicking donkeys.
I have donkeys. I wore elephants last week. We're bipartisan here.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
But we do try to be honest and fair.
We're barely Democrats, but you got to give the president some credit because their campaign came out with a 5-minute pitch to LGBT voters and those who support our rights, and we're going to show it to you shortly.
This week of the Democratic Convention, which is certainly not what happened at the Republican Convention, where Mitt Romney stood up for traditional marriage, although strangely, we learned yet again, because this is not entirely new news, that David Koch of the famous Koch brothers supports same-sex marriage.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about what support means when we get to that.
And
we're going to show you an ad that has come out by a pro-Romney super PAC, which doesn't like same-sex marriage.
And then, in the midst of this, 1/4 of gay voters say that they would switch to vote Republican if the party came out for LGBT rights. We could do an hour alone lecturing you about that, but we'll try to resist.
In the case of the now out Arizona sheriff who traded criminal charges with his ex-lover, both of them have been cleared, and the sheriff won his primary for re-election.
Focus on the Family and the Alliance Defense Fund are teaming up to gut anti-bullying laws.
In Germany, a father is standing up for his cross-dressing 5-year-old son in a unique way, and we'll show you a picture.
An HIV service center in Southern California was evicted 2 days after opening by a landlord who accused them of bringing disease into his building.
Like most medical offices do.
Like most people do.
Yes, I know. And I'm going to review a play called Meth-tacular, a musical comedy about one gay man's struggle with crystal meth.
Well, why not a musical comedy? All right, but we start with the Democratic Convention because we know that's what you've been watching all week, or not watching and counting on us to catch you up on.
So, and we're taping on Tuesday, so don't expect us to tell you how we liked any of the speeches.
Including Michelle Obama's appearance before the Gay Caucus at an HRC Victory Fund lunch.
And I don't know if you're able, what they did actually have some gay speakers on the list there. California Assembly Speaker John Perez was supposed to speak, and Tammy Baldwin was supposed to speak.
Exactly.
They didn't have any open gays at the Republican convention this year that I'm aware of. Connie Rice has not come out.
Okay. But they did have the convention in Charlotte by the time you see this, and we haven't seen it, but what we have seen is the Obama administration's pitch to LGBT voters. And unlike the Romney administration, which is doing everything it can to distance
It's not a Romney
itself.
administration yet. It's just a campaign.
Is that what I said? Romney
yes.
campaign. Thank you for the correction. Other corrections to follow. The Obama White House or campaign has put out a 5-minute video narrated by Jane Lynch touting the administration's achievements on LGBT rights, and we thought you would like to take a look at this. So here it is.
President of the United States. Gays and lesbians will have somebody who will fight for equal rights for them because they are our brothers and they are our sisters.
In 2008, our country elected a leader who not only acknowledged the LGBT community, but who embraced it.
I'm here with you in that fight.
Who counted us as friends.
I held some bilateral talks with your leader, Lady Gaga. She was wearing 16-inch heels.
We elected a man who understood our struggles.
I was shocked and saddened by the deaths of several young people who were bullied and taunted for being gay.
And who has pushed the nation forward towards equality.
It is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
I don't think there's been a single moment in which LGBT issues became important to me. I think it's an accumulation of a lifetime of friends and family, people I've gotten to know who have helped me understand how the fight for LGBT rights is consistent with that most important part of America's character, which is to constantly expand opportunity and fairness to everybody. We've seen a profound cultural shift just in the last decade, partly because folks are family now. This isn't a matter of strangers. These are people we love, people we care about. Since I came to Washington, first as a senator and ultimately as president, meeting people like Judy Shepard, and not only hearing the heartbreaking tragedy of Matthew, but also the strength and determination she brought to making sure that never happens to young people anywhere in the country again. All the men and women in uniform who I've had a chance to meet who have served our country with such devotion, having to hide who they are in order to keep in uniform, those stories made me passionate about this issue.
That passion drove him to make more significant advances for LGBT Americans than any other president who came before him.
Gay rights groups are hailing it as a big victory. President Obama ordered any hospital that gets federal funding to give same-sex couples visitation and consultation rights.
President Obama getting ready to grant some benefits to same-sex partners of federal employees.
President Obama will sign a measure making it a federal crime to assault someone because of sexual orientation or gender identity.
No one in America should ever be afraid to walk down the street holding the hands of the person they love.
This is a triumph for not just members of the gay community, but for us as a civilization.
He appointed more openly LGBT people to his administration and confirmed more LGBT federal judges than any previous administration. And he knocked down a long-standing discriminatory policy within the U.S. military.
One of my proudest moments was when we were able to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was not an easy process. There were some who doubted whether we'd ever get it done. This is done. That day that we signed it was an emotional day. And to see not just folks who were active in the military, but to see veterans, some of them from the Vietnam War or the Gulf War, seeing the tears on their faces and understanding what it meant to them to be acknowledged was one of the most satisfying moments of my presidency.
We are not a nation that says, don't ask, don't tell. We are a nation that says, out of many, we are one.
And with that firm belief, he became the first sitting president to support marriage equality.
Truly historic and potentially watershed moment as President Obama comes out formally, publicly, enthusiastically in support of gay marriage.
No sitting president has ever done what Barack Obama did yesterday.
The President of the United States just said he stands fully with gay and lesbian Americans.
It's part and parcel of my overall belief that all of the LGBT couples that I meet across the country, their families, their children, their commitments to each other are as strong and as precious as anybody else's. Not only to preserve the gains that we've made over the last 3 years, but to make sure that any discrimination is eliminated. You're going to need a strong advocate in the White House. I am that strong advocate. We're going to continue to lean forward in making sure that whether it's the capacity to adopt, hospital visitation, ending travel bans, making sure that benefits to spouses or partners are recognized at the federal level. We're just going to keep on making sure that the rights of same-sex couples are expanded. And it's not just a matter of head, it's a matter of heart. It's who I am. It's what I care about.
Well, it sounds like we're better off than we were 4 years ago.
Look, clearly this is a 5-minute commercial.
Yes.
It's a PR release, but it's back. It is a...
And the Romney campaign has not made one.
And will not. And the Democratic platform reinforces all this in its commitment to these issues and
It
to
does.
moving forward in the future.
The language, which I assume will have been, they don't usually make amendments on the floor. They even call it freedom to marry. That must make Evan Wolfson very happy because that's the name of his organization. And it's non-discrimination, and it's we'll do it. What else would you like? Is basically what it says.
And there are 500 plus out delegates and alternates and LGBT at the Democratic Convention. There's no question that there is that commitment. Now, nonetheless, in a recent poll, the Logo Harris Interactive poll,
Yes.
the LGBT support for Obama was 67% of those polled, 2/3, but that is down from 2008, where it was 73%. It has always been true that there was a significant number of LGBT Republican voters, and it varies.
Some of them are our viewers.
Absolutely. It has varied in elections here locally, certainly, from a quarter to 40%.
People like that say, yes, obviously I recognize that Obama is much better on LGBT rights. In fact, in this poll, 80% said Obama would be more supportive of gay rights. Only 4% said Romney would be more supportive of. It'd have to be, I don't know who those are, but but anyway, yes, people have other priorities when they vote.
Exactly, or that's what they say. Yes. Well, the astonishing thing to me about that is that where did we have economic prosperity under Bill Clinton? Where did we have everything go off the rails? George Bush.
Right.
So the fact that people are talking about Romney as the person to fix the economy just strikes me as utter insanity.
It's preposterous.
Yeah.
But then there was this question about what would you do if Romney and the Republicans were to adopt the same position on gay rights as Obama and the Democrats, and a quarter of LGBT voters would move to the Republican side. So people are ready. Well, this article is by Ken Sherrill. And who's
My answer to that is, and if your grandmother had wheels, she'd be a trolley. It's not going to happen. Why are you even talking about this as a,
a
theory?
No, it's not a theory. The point is the Republican Party, if it's ever going to capture
I get the point. It's just
has to modernize. Well,
they're not going to in the foreseeable future.
This is a very long discussion. I mean, when is the Republican Party going to reach the breaking point? Hey, I remember when the Democrats reached the breaking point and started standing up to people like us.
I believe the Republican Party will disappear before reaching that breaking point.
Well, it may actually break up. It may become two parties. It really may mean that there has to be another party because people just can't identify. And of course, people don't identify with it. I mean, people, there's only, what is it, a third now, independent, Republican, and Democrat.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, at the Republican National Convention, some interesting things happened. Utah Senator Orrin Hatch told Mike Signorelli, he said that he's against same-sex marriage, but states should be allowed to make their own decisions individually, and he does not support a federal marriage amendment, which was quite interesting. And David Koch, who is, of course, financing the entire Republican campaign along with Sheldon Adelson, told Politico that he supports same-sex marriage.
Yes, as he has said in the past, a lot of these conservatives do, especially the Kochs who are libertarians.
Yeah.
But people have to remember, before anybody says like this is some great movement in the Republican Party, that doesn't mean that David Koch has any compunctions about, spending almost all of his money on bigots, anti-gay bigots, as long as they support his economic agenda.
Right.
So we should, I don't think these people should be praised. And of course, I'm in a minority in saying, I don't think we should take their money. Because NGLTF, for instance, takes money from Paul Singer, who does the exact same thing.
Right.
Yes, he supports same-sex marriage, he's got a gay son, but does not, is everybody he supports is undermining our larger agenda. And not just like our relationships with people of color and women and all that kind of stuff, gay rights.
Absolutely. And the horror, the gall of Mitt Romney and all his cohorts standing up at that convention and talking about how they support everyone. Yeah. They support everyone, and they're going to make life better for everyone.
Well, that's what the log cabin people, had the nerve to, like, in there trying to dig something out of this convention, cited, and saying we have a place. They said it's disappointing. This is the log cabin that the platform adopted in the early days of the convention, like this was back in the 19th century.
Days of yore.
will not help to elect Republicans in November because of its aggressive and divisive language on social issues. Social issues, our rights.
Madeleine Albright was on Morning Joe this week and was asked about Romney's position on the Russians being a big threat and how she felt about his positions in Afghanistan and everyone, and she said, "Oh, I suppose it's a good policy for the 20th century, but I believe we're living in the 21st."
Well, she also said, "I don't see how any woman can vote for this ticket."
She and I went to the same high school.
Where's that?
A little private girls' school in Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado.
The Kent School.
Well, anyway.
Anyway.
But there are people who, because of the same-sex marriage issue, stand up to the Republicans, including this this guy in Massachusetts who was Mickey Ward, who was he's called
the real-life model for the movie The Fighter, which was a terrific movie, by the way.
He's the Mill City Ring King, they call him. He was ready. He was scheduled within a half hour to endorse Scott Brown, and then he says, "I found out Scott is anti-union, and I'm a Teamster guy, and I found out also he's against gay marriage. And if I say you love someone, and I say, if you love someone, you should have the same rights no matter who you are." And he canceled the endorsement thing.
Yeah.
Great embarrassment.
Yes.
Now, he's not endorsed
Yes.
Elizabeth Warren yet, but she supports same-sex marriage, and she supports unions, and she wants to put Wall Street in her place.
I think it's just great to embarrass Scott Brown like that and pull the rug out from under him. Also, I need to correct something. First correction I said last week. I said that Rick Warren had canceled his civility forum with Obama and Romney because they were not being civil in the campaign. It turns out that, contrary to what I'd first read, they had not agreed to the forum this time, and that's why it was canceled, not because Rick Warren made some, high-minded...
Why doesn't he do it with the minor party candidates?
Why doesn't he do it with Paul Ryan and Joe Biden?
Well, we're going to get to see that.
Yeah.
And then there's, we should probably...
Gary Bauer.
Yes.
Gary Bauer, who you may remember from the Family Research Council.
He was the domestic advisor to Ronald Reagan, wasn't he?
And one of the first leaders of the right-wing anti-gay independent groups.
Monster.
Yeah, Monster. Most amusing when he ran for president and fell off the back of a stage while trying to flip pancakes.
Is that a nice thing to say?
It's just a fond memory I have of him. So these guys do not disappear. They're like cockroaches. They survive. And he's got a new affiliation, and they have put together a ad for the Romney-Ryan campaign that brings up the issue that we are afraid they're going to hammer us over the head with, and that is same-sex marriage. It's a crude ad, but we'll see how effective it is. Here it is.
Hey, honey. How are you?
Fine, I guess.
What's going on?
Well, Obama is trying to force gay marriage on this country. That's not the change I voted for. Marriage is between a man and a woman.
That's not the change I voted for either.
What can we do?
We can vote for someone with values.
Campaign for American Values PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, we thought they didn't really vote for Obama the last time.
Preposterous to think that a suburban white man would be voting for Obama.
Now, let's think about that.
But this is, they're not going to pull punches. They're going to go right in there and go after Obama on the issue that they think can defeat him, especially in states like North Carolina, where this is running, where the state voted very heavily against same-sex marriage, and a state that voted for Obama last time, and that he really would like to win this time again.
But Congressman Aaron Schock, and we should put his picture up when we have it, who probably goes around saying, "Go ahead, punch my abs, go ahead, try it." But he did not like it.
You made that up.
I did make that up. But he did not like it when Mike Signorelli of Sirius Radio, our colleague, out gay reporter, does a gay show, came up to him and asked him if he was gay. And he stormed off, refused to answer, called it inappropriate. Those questions are completely... Would you take a look at him? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say things like that. Those questions are completely ridiculous and inappropriate. And then he said he's confirmed that he's not gay before.
Well,
it's on the record.
Because people have been talking about him as gay for years. But he voted against Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal.
And
He's against same-sex
put the picture back up. You see that belt he's got on? He says he burned it.
when people talked about it as a gay outfit.
Oh, God.
But, you know, I envy Mike being at the conventions. Mike and I...
Because then he can do the work that you used to do at the conventions.
Well, we were both at the 96 conventions, and one of the first shots you see in our opening video is of me at the 96 convention asking people questions. And that was where... I went up to Mark Foley and talked to him about being gay, or tried to, and he talked about AIDS instead. And, you know, Strom Thurmond came out for needle exchange. And
he said you were a very pretty girl.
And Dick Armey said I was a very...
nasty something or other, and you called him a nasty congressman.
Yes, I did. Because he had said that Barney fag comment. But Steve Forbes, because Mike had outed his father, Malcolm Forbes, and Mike went up to talk to him, and Steve Forbes ran away and punched Mike in the stomach as he was running away.
So that's a true punching story.
Fun times at these conventions, so I'm sorry not to have been there for that kind of stuff this year. But Mike was there and got that from Aaron Schock.
There was some protesting going on at the conventions, thank goodness, but not much. And down in Tampa, I mean, we used to be part of a lot of demonstrations, Democrats and Republicans. You're always trying to get them to move. So I don't know how well they went. And usually all they're trying to do down there is suppress dissent, pen people off in pens and things like that. So
in San Diego at the Republican Convention in 96, we did a demonstration outside the convention hall. Overnight, they built a fence.
Right.
So that the next day we could not
It's
get
outrageous, but there was some praise for, and if anybody wants to contradict this, write us in, but the police chief down there, we got a picture of her, Jane Castor.
In Tampa.
Is an out lesbian, and there she is. And it says, at least in this report, that people from Code Pink and groups like that, and in this case Planned Parenthood, you know, wanted to have their pictures taken with her, and that she does look pretty jolly along there. You don't see Ray Kelly doing this in New York, do you?
They supplied food and drink to the protesters.
Well, that's the spirit.
And they facilitated protest instead of trying to shut it down for no good reason.
We worked at the Hetrick Martin Institute, and just before we started working there was a big protest against the Harvey Milk School, and Hetrick and Martin came out with coffee and donuts and fed it to the protesters.
I've always thought in New York City that protests could have been a lot less violent, troublesome, subject to protest if the cops and administrations had simply let them proceed.
Yes.
You know, the Matthew Shepard vigil turned into one of the most horrible, violent protests ever.
Martha Stewart was caught up in it.
In her SUV as we were surrounding it.
But horses went crazy and trampled people.
All completely unnecessary.
Well, and when
completely unnecessary.
Every city in the world protested the Iraq War in 2003.
Okay.
Yes. When February, I think, is when it started. Anyway, check me on that. Whenever it started, but they penned people in New York. Every other city, you walk past major monuments, but in New York, they said we couldn't march past the UN.
And the Republican convention in New York, where they just arrested people standing on the sidewalk.
It's outrageous.
Held them for days.
New York is not supportive of this, of free speech.
No. All right. So
right,
a little more political news. Arizona, both sides. Kirsten Sinema, the out bisexual state rep, won the Democratic primary for Congress, so she may become the first out bisexual member of Congress in November. That would be fantastic.
On the Republican side, we told you about Sheriff Paul Babu down there in Pinal
County.
Pinal County. He was running for Congress, and he dropped out of that race, and he ran for re-election as sheriff, and he got renominated. But also this week, the case of him, his boyfriend, Jose Orozco, accused him of all kinds of nefarious things and threatening him and all this kind of stuff. Paul was cleared of those charges, and he accused Jose of false things and things like that. They cleared him. Everybody's fine now. I'm sure not everybody's not guilty, but there it is.
It seems to be straightened out for the moment.
So to speak.
Yeah. In other political news, in California, the Fair Political Practices Commission wants to fine 3 LGBT groups who were active in the election fight over Prop 8 because they missed timely reporting on donations and expenditure. They did not file on time.
You see, on this, people out there say we're not objective. We tell you the bad news about what the gays do.
After all this talk about demonstrating, we will also say that there are times when we think you must follow the rules and adhere to those kinds of deadlines, or you're going to get fined.
Absolutely. And in upstate New York, it's a complete mess. I mean, if you think New York City politics are crazy, we should see what's going on in the Buffalo area. There's a state senator up there. He voted against same-sex marriage. George Maziarz is his name, and
he's a Republican.
He's a Republican, and he voted against same-sex marriage, but he's opposed by the Tea Party. They're running Johnny Destino. I mean, it sounds like something out of a 1950s.
But the other thing they're running is a web page where they are threatening to out George, and they're running the theme song from the movie Georgie Girl, which happens to play just perfectly if you're going to out someone named George.
And what good does it do on the website to say his closet opens in 13 days when you're basically saying he's in the closet already?
I don't know.
And then, I wasn't going to talk about this, but everybody here has heard about the Democratic Senator Ruben Diaz, very anti-gay senior.
Proudly.
In New York, It was actually very good on a lot of, economic issues, by the way. But anyway, his daughter is a cop, and she keyed her boyfriend's car and did threatening things against him, and she got arrested. But he goes public and blames it on because she's the daughter of a big-mouth, controversial character who's opposed to same-sex marriage and abortion, who was always criticizing the governor, the mayor, and the establishment. That's why they arrested, because of your support for against same-sex marriage.
It's always us. All right, in other news, the Marine Commandant, General James Amos, who had testified to Congress against the idea of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you may remember him, was asked, okay, so now it's and it's been done, and what do you think? He says, I don't think there's a problem. I don't see it. I don't hear about it, so I'm very pleased with how it's turned out.
Yet Aaron Schock, who we had on the screen there before, said, I voted to keep Don't Ask, Don't Tell because the military people who came before us, which is a lie, there were some who didn't want to change it, but the leaders said they wanted to change it. So now we got General Amos. Maybe Aaron Schock will change his mind.
Don't hold your breath. Meanwhile, the Service Members Legal Defense Network and OutServe, which are now merging, are holding a big event on the Intrepid, which we used to refuse to go to because...
oh, right, we can go now. It's still a war machine.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be going.
No.
But they're holding a big event on September 18th called Celebrating Our Heroes, where they are going to honor Admiral Mike Mullen, the former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Barbara Walters will MC the event.
Oh, my goodness. Well, she's been at gay events before.
Absolutely. She's been at GLAAD for years.
GLAAD, and
many
years. Awards at GLAAD.
Has done many shows that were pro-gay. Go ahead.
Well, big news on the federal prison front, if you work there, because the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, has a workplace diversity program adding an LGBT representative to each of its 125 prisons and administrative offices nationwide. This is not something to make it better for prisoners, although it might. Because you'll have out employees.
It's someone who can deal with whatever issues come up and is assigned to that. We'll see how much attention gets paid. And the Department of Justice has gotten a Michigan man to plead guilty to a federal hate crime after he smashed a gay guy in the face at a convenience store, breaking his eye socket. This is the second instance where the Department of Justice has stepped in and used its power under the federal hate crimes statute passed by the Congress and the Obama administration.
Well, speaking of hate crimes, Focus on the Family and the Alliance Defense Fund would like to make it easier to hate gay people in schools. you know, their worry is that fundamentalist kids are going to be accused of harassing just for gays because they just state their religious views. But they have issued, and believe me, they're going to go around the country now trying to change all the anti-bullying laws to get all these religious exemptions. To protect, you know, and it really wants to gut all these laws. And they're going to have a lot of advocates. They're going to have a lot of advocates in state legislatures because they run the state legislatures.
Right.
We forget that. You know, we're always focused on the presidential election. But folks, you got to...
And we are not against free speech. We are, this is about hate speech.
Right.
People are allowed to express their opinions. So they are constructing a false boogeyman here in getting rid of these laws. What they are claiming is a problem is not a problem, of course. But more of a problem is the actual violence being visited on people. And two more murders of transgender people, one in Miami, Dwayne Deja Jones shot dead, and another murder in Philadelphia. The murders just pile up, and particularly of transgender people who are at outrageous vulnerability for
And then there's
violence.
the case in Phoenix where it's partner violence, and they kill. And this woman named Dallas Augustine killed her partner and herself. And it turns out that her mother had died in 2006 in Reno when she. Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up. Well, come on, no.
It's too complicated.
It's a very complicated story, but it raises the issue of partner violence.
Yes.
And that's what happened here.
In Chicago, the police have agreed to be more respectful of transgender arrestees. This is an agreement that's taken a couple of years to work out. We've seen this in a number of cities now. I'm not sure I trust it, but better to at least try to raise that consciousness than not.
And we thought that it was said that a church in South Bloomingville, Ohio was burned to the ground because we took some pro-gay stands, and we think that's the reason we were attacked. It turns out it's somebody who had a grudge against somebody in the church, and that is the person who is now suspected of this arson. It was more of a revenge crime.
And back to the Chick-fil-A issue, you know, my favorite artist who did the Taste Like Hate graffiti
What's his
on
name?
the wall.
Manuel Castro.
Okay. He is not going to be prosecuted. He is paying for the painting over of his artwork on the side of the Chick-fil-A in Torrance, California.
He's telling his critics his act was meant to further a discussion about tolerance and acceptance. I don't use violence, I use paint. Artists for centuries have expressed their opinions through this medium, but not on the side of your building.
There's a lot of graffiti on the sides of buildings.
Makes me nervous.
His just happened to be more provocative.
And the
head of Chick-fil-A, Dan Cathy, who is so concerned about the movement among college students to get rid of his facilities on their campuses that he actually had lunch with campus leaders recently.
He did in Atlanta last week, but it's not clear everything that they talked about there at the meeting.
I think it just is a sign that he's very worried about his business. In Reno, Nevada, also worried about his job is Fox radio host Sean Savoy. He came out and after he had his show canceled by the station because he interviewed a Dallas gay advocate. He had him on the show, and the Reno station canceled his show.
My God.
Because he had this guest, so he came out.
They don't do that to Anderson Cooper and Thomas Roberts.
Good news from Redlands, California, where a Cub Scout pack is trying to stand up to the National Boy Scouts by saying it welcomes lesbian and gay volunteers. But every time any local pack tries to do this, they get shot down by the National. They're just not going to be able to get away with that.
And the alumni of Franciscan University, the gay and lesbian alumni, have complained about the fact that the school is offering a course that links homosexuality with deviant behavior.
It's a fundamentalist Catholic university. What do you expect?
I expect science. Look, I went to Catholic high school. We taught evolution and all those things. I mean, you know.
Do they still?
Yes, they do. Come on. They're very right-wing.
I don't know. Bill O'Reilly's also
actually,
a graduate of that school.
You're right in the sense that they have become more anti-gay.
Yes, they have.
Have become more anti-gay.
Yes.
It was not less anti-gay when I was there.
Yeah. All these, you know, it's everybody going to the edges.
Yes. And then there's Father Benedict Groeschel. Should we talk about him?
Briefly.
Well, this is the TV. He's a TV priest. He does a lot of television shows on those faith networks and things like that. And he was talking about the Sandusky case, the Jerry Sandusky case, and he goes, "Here's this poor guy. It went on for years. Why didn't anyone say anything about it?" And he is saying because the kids are the ones who came on to him. This guy is a pig,
everybody's apologizing for him.
He's a former official of the Archdiocese of New York. They're very bad on gay stuff. They distance themselves from this guy in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and he had to apologize. But thank you to the president of the University of Louisiana in Lafayette, who is defending his LGBT studies program from attacks by Senator David Vitter, Representative
the whoremonger?
Landry.
David Vitter, the
yes.
whoremonger?
Yes, and some
Why?
other...
Because it didn't include how to pick up hookers? Is that why he objected to it?
How dare these politicians, these elected officials, go
Shameless.
after an LGBT studies course at a public university? Get over yourself.
All right. Speaking of going after schools, the National Center for Lesbian Rights is suing the Indianapolis Public Schools over the Dynasty Young case.
Yep.
Now, we had reported that Dynasty was being allowed back in school, but not in his school. This is a kid who's out gay.
Yeah, he said like a charter school.
I mean, Dynasty Young is the one whose mother equipped him with something to ward off, some device to ward off the bullies.
Because the school was ignoring all their pleas.
So now they are being sued.
And I will choose this moment to make another correction because we talked about Springfield, Missouri debating a non-discrimination, an anti-bullying, I think, law, one or the other.
Let's make another mistake.
Well, I referred to Springfield as the capital of Missouri, and of course it is not.
Yeah.
Jefferson City is the capital of Missouri.
Right.
I was confusing it with all those other Springfields.
A couple of marriage things.
Sure.
In Washington State, one of the biggest companies is Expedia, and they have come out to support same-sex marriage in the referendum battle there, along with Hotels.com, Classic Vacations, and Hotwire. So observant bigots will no longer be able to save on flights and hotels, and it's going to cost them a lot more money, and that's going to help our cause.
We're slowly narrowing the lifestyle of a lot of bigots. Meanwhile, the Washington Public Disclosure Commission says that Catholic churches cannot directly collect money for Preserve Washington, which is the anti-marriage
they were going to take up a special collection?
Exactly. So here's the deal. Preserve Washington, they can announce from the pulpit that people should donate to this, but then the group itself, Preserve Washington, has to come into the church and pick up the envelopes.
I got to say something to you Catholics out there, because supposedly you disagree with this, although I don't think as many church-going Catholics disagree with this as people identify as Catholic. But stand up and say something when they do this. If you disagree with this, it's okay to stand up and say, not all Catholics believe that we should be voting against same-sex marriage.
And that applies across the board.
All churches.
All venues where you hear anti-same-sex marriage talk or anti-LGBT talk.
Any bigotry that you hear expressed.
Speak up.
You should speak up.
You'll feel so much better about yourself. But be safe. I'll say that. University of Texas will not do a formal investigation of the methodology of the study by its professor Regnerus.
What? This is a very bad study that's already been condemned.
They admit that there are errors, disagreements, lots of problems with this, but that's not necessarily misconduct, so they're not going to investigate.
There was a young blogger who went underground and went to the conference of the National Organization for Marriage to be briefed on all this, and they were briefing them how to use the Regnerus study.
Yes.
Yes.
It's already been used in court decisions.
Right.
It's shameful. It's been completely exposed as
It's
a fraud,
a lie. It's
a sham, and it won't work.
Well, it is
but
working.
it is working. Yeah. And thank you to the straight couple in Indiana, which, in support of same-sex marriage, invited 4 lesbian and gay couples who were their wedding guests to do the first dance to the Beach Boys song, Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? I think it'd be even nicer if you straight people would wait to get married until we can get all our federal rights.
Yes, that
would be a big
really
statement.
nice, yes.
Only movie stars kind of make this statement, but there
And
are a few
even
others.
then, only for a while.
There are a few others.
Yeah.
But that would be solidarity.
International news?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is everybody sitting down? Poland, and I'm not trying to stereotype, but they are planning to introduce a gay civil partnership legislation.
It's actually going to be for gay couples and straight couples.
Now, the party that's in power now is sort of a center-right party.
Yeah.
It's not a far-right party, which
Yeah.
used to be in charge. It's a center-right party, and they're going to make it a conscience vote. But they think that with the Liberal Party that's there, that they can get enough left-wing parties into it to maybe even pass it. So that's real
Now
progress there.
it's limited. It doesn't allow for tax benefits or citizenship rights for binational couples or adoption rights, but it's still a big step ahead of the United States of America, which has no national federal civil partnership of any kind.
And Article 18 of the Constitution of the Republic of Poland, 1997, so it was right after, the United States banned it, defines marriage as the union of a man and a woman. They really got on that there.
Next door in Germany, we tell you the heartwarming story of a father who stepped up to support his 5-year-old son.
Now, his name is Nick Peckert, and his son likes wearing dresses. And this was not a problem when they lived in an urban environment, they said, in West Berlin, but they moved to a small town. Now, we got a picture of him there. So he decided to...
The kid was getting intimidated and harassed for wearing dresses in the small town. So the dad was thinking about, he didn't want to tell the kid, don't wear dresses, be safe. He decided to go out and wear a big, long skirt.
He said he didn't make friends not wearing the skirts in Berlin. In other words, he didn't want to close the kid down.
Right.
And that was his. So he has been named Father of the Year by Gawker.
Nice.
That's nice.
And we appreciate that.
But I mean but that's we need to show solidarity. That's showing solidarity with people,
exactly.
whether or not it's your particular issue.
In Brazil, a gay male couple with an adopted child applied for the traditional parental 4-month leave for one of the dads, usually given to mothers as a maternity leave. They had been denied that before, and now the new decision is yes, one of them can have the 4-month parental leave.
And we have an update on the anal probes in Lebanon. We told you that they arrested 36 people and checked their anuses to figure out if they were gay. So the justice minister of Lebanon demanded an end to the use of the anal probe. The Lebanese Medical Association had already issued an opinion saying, this is outrageous. There shouldn't be any of these tests. You gotta stop it. There was an historic gay demonstration there by HELEM, H-E-L-E-M, the Lebanese LGBT advocacy organization, against this. So this has become the rallying point in Lebanon.
This just in, big rainbow over Charlotte, North Carolina for the opening of the Democratic Convention. In South Africa, the African National Congress held a big public meeting with the LGBT group Gay Flag of South Africa to discuss the murders that take place of gay people, particularly of lesbians, and the forced rapes and the homophobia of the traditional leaders. So they're acknowledging that, even in a country where we are included in the Constitution.
Yes.
And in Tasmania, the Assembly there has passed a same-sex marriage law. It now goes to the upper house there, but it is expected to succeed. Tasmania is the most conservative district of Australia.
Maybe it's a very conservative issue. marriage.
Well, it is in many ways, but it is somehow in Tasmania they're taking leadership in Australia. And New Zealand, the parliament passed a marriage law 80-40. They have to go through 2 more votes to get it passed. They have a civil union system now. And they say that the Obama announcement in support of marriage equality helped in New Zealand to make this a reality.
He's the leader of the free world. And will be again if he's reelected.
Well, in Ireland, a member of parliament, Lord McGuinness, has resigned after saying that being gay was a disease, it leads to bestiality, gay marriage is unnatural, so he's been forced out.
Don't know anybody where it led to bestiality.
they were into bestiality to begin with. And Identity Kenya, which is a LGBT group in Kenya, is reporting that cops are blackmailing and extorting gay men. Ugly story.
Ugly.
All right, AIDS news.
Well, now, maybe you know more about this than I do, but in Southern California, the local HIV/AIDS service organization, it's called Bienestar, opened up in Van Nuys in Southern California, and within 48 hours, the landlord forcibly evicted them, saying it was, quote, bringing disease to the building. Now, they filed a lawsuit, but I don't understand why they haven't been put right back in under the law.
Well, they're negotiating a settlement is the latest news, and may in fact have done so by the time you see this. They are a long-standing organization. They've been in business since 1989. They are a very established social service agency for the Latino community and around LGBT people and issues and
HIV. And they will still offer limited services on their mobile unit located outside their former offices at 14515 Hamlin Street.
They were just down the block. Yeah. They moved into a new office just because they were changing offices.
This is illegal under the Americans with Disabilities Act. This case was there was a case in New York that this was settled in the early 1980s. When they tried to get a doctor out of the village.
Andy, you should know by now that people do what they want to do, and laws are not often a bar to that.
But we've been talking today about we would believe in certain respect for law, even at demonstrations.
We do, but evidently landlords do not, and you should certainly know that, being a tenant activist.
Yes. Oh, nope, you let it out of the hat there, the tenant activist. Okay.
Entertainment news?
Well, a lot of the big news came from Utah because KSL said that they were going to still say they're not going to show The New Normal, which is the NBC series about the 2 gay dads.
Yep.
And so they had a meeting with local gays where they issued a joint statement saying, oh, it's not really about gays, it's just about some of the other stuff that's in the show.
It's about sexually explicit content, which probably means they say the word gay, demeaning dialogue, and inciting stereotypes on network television.
Right. But, people are going
to you've seen the first episode.
I watched it online, The New Normal. I'm trying to think about it. It stars Andrew Rannells, who is from the Book of Mormon, the star of the Book of Mormon.
And Ellen Burstyn.
Not Ellen Barkin.
Ellen Barkin,
Ellen
sorry.
Barkin. Ellen Burstyn is in everything, though. She's in Political Animal. She's in everything.
Ellen Barkin is the most famous tweeter and is getting into trouble for tweeting on
Oh, right. We talked about that last week. But Ellen Barkin plays a nasty mother of a surrogate who wants to give them their child. And she says horrible, horrible things.
Yeah.
We know Ellen Barkin is...
Oh, so KSL doesn't want to air the show because it's anti-gay?
She says horrible things about everybody, about people of color, everything.
KSL is...
Her little grandchild goes, you're a racist, Grandma.
Well, it's a Ryan Murphy production who does Glee and did Nip Tuck.
So you folks out in Salt Lake City should be able to see the show on another station at some point. Apparently there's a station there that picks up everything you can't see.
Yeah, and KSL did not back down in its meeting with the gay community.
Because it's Mormon-owned.
Exactly.
Now,
It's like that's why the Boy Scouts are not backing down, because they are Mormon run largely, and it's why KSL is not going to back down.
Gays are taking over the Book of Mormon. If you want to put that picture up there, this is the photo of the two guys who are going to do the road show of the Book of Mormon that you're going to get to see all across this country for top dollar. I mean, by the way, it's Gavin Creel there on the right, who was one of the stars. I'm sorry, on the left, who was going to play the Andrew Rannells role, Elder Price, and the other guy's name is let's see, Gertner. Where is it?
Jared Gertner.
Jared Gertner. They're both openly gay, and they're going to be playing the leads across the country in the Book of Mormon. You know, I've been reading about how it's opening. I mean, theaters, they're not selling normal prices. You have to buy a subscription to their whole season
to get in
if you want to see the Book of Mormon. I mean, come on. You know, as a person who's gone to the theater for a long time, I hate when you do stuff like that. But that's show business.
And you may remember, while I thought it was okay, I did not think it was the
Book of
be-all and
Mormon.
end-all.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious. You know, I mean, and, you know.
I was not as enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, they stuck
Make your own mind up.
Yeah.
ABC Family Network has approved a pilot for a new show produced by Jennifer Lopez, which includes a lesbian couple and their family. And the American Family Association is freaking out about this because, you know, we can't be visible. So there's a big petition up on change.org. So if you want to tell the ABC Family Network to go ahead and air J-Lo's lesbian TV sitcom or whatever it is, maybe it's a drama, I don't know, go to change.org and look for the Jennifer Lopez ABC Family show. Speaking of pilots, pilot Doug Gaturba says he had a long affair with John Travolta starting in 1981 when he interviewed for a pilot job with them, and that they were lovers for a long time. He's 62 now. I don't know why they're all coming out of the woodwork at this point. Once the dam breaks.
But Travolta...
It's a different time. We can talk about this now.
Travolta is calling it a ridiculous story that's a retread and blah, 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 blah. But they deny it every time it comes out.
Blah, 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 blah. Well, Stevie Wonder was asked about Frank Ocean, the young hip-hop star who came out about the fact that his first love was a man without putting a label on it or defining it. And then there was some controversy about Stevie's answer. Well, yeah, bisexual, homosexual, whatever.
Not when you're with a man.
He's also had relationships
he's
with
bisexual.
women. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But Stevie Wonder's first answer was, some people are confused, mistake closeness for gay, but some are gay. And then he had to clarify the fact that he was not, casting aspersions on gay people, and it got kind of confusing.
Yes. He's worked it out.
Yeah. The Emmys are going to give its special Governor's Award, which is a very high honor, to the It Gets Better series.
Oh, wow.
Dan Savage and his partner Terry created this, and that's going to happen at the ceremony on September 15th. They call it a great example of strategically, creatively, and powerfully utilizing the media to educate and inspire.
I wonder if next year the Mitt Gets Worse series will be on.
Oh, that'd be so great.
All right, I saw this musical comedy about a gay meth addict, Stephen Strafford, talking about his own life. It was a big hit in fringe festivals and things like that. It is a harrowing story. He's a musical comedy actor, acted in Broadway.
This is Meth-tacular.
Meth-tacular is the name of his show. He tries to be really funny and light in the beginning before he gets into all this anonymous sex that he has and living with a drug dealer, to get his stuff and all the terrible things that he does, which he always keeps, saying with a light thing, and then he gets very serious at the end. Stephen, it's a really good show that I would cut by about a half hour, and I think
that's so true of most shows.
Most shows.
Maybe even this one.
Well, people get in love with their material.
Yeah. If you are a fan of Andy Bell of Erasure, you can look for him headlining Atlanta Pride in October, on October 13th. He's one of the first to be out gay, out HIV positive as a sort of mainstream performer.
2 days after National Coming Out Day.
Absolutely. And we followed a little bit the gay Olympians, the out lesbian and gay and otherwise Olympians. Well, you know, following the Olympics, each time they have the Paralympics in the same venues in the same city. And that's been going on in London. And there are a number of out LGBT competitors in the Paralympics, including an equestrian from Great Britain, Lee Pearson, and he won a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal at the Paralympics.
How did he do that?
Riding a horse. Now, one other thing I want to alert you to is a new online comedy, a lesbian comedy called Lips that is just being produced and starting. And what I like, you know, it's sort of wacky and it's sort of...
tries to be very edgy.
It does.
Be careful now.
It's
parental guidance here.
It's produced by a woman named Flo Vinger, who is the star of it too. And I think it has a very sort of ab-fab quality. It's sort of wacky. But we have the trailer of it. You can see this online at flovinger.com/lips, or look for it on YouTube, Lips. But here's a little taste of the trailer.
Hollywood is the place where dreams come true. Our dream is to make it as rock and roll stars. The ultimate goal is to perform at the Dinosaur Weekend main stage. Rehearsals are not just for playing instruments, it's to strategize.
I created this PowerPoint presentation.
That looks like a cheat sheet to me.
Exactly, and we've got to.
I have only one.
Well, I have two, so that makes three. Yep, that's me, London London. I'm the lead singer in the infamous band called Lips. If you haven't heard of us, you must not live on the planet Earth.
And also, I don't know why you're doing like bad John Lennon impersonation.
I don't like Maxie?
No, I don't.
All right, I just don't have a gimmick. I don't have anything.
Well, it's not my gimmick. That's how I speak.
Dee Dee, but everybody says you're so sexy.
Well, I am.
Okay, well, some people actually ask, like, if you can make them a burrito. Or, like, cut their garden. Or give oranges on the highway.
Just because you think I'm Latin and I can go and do gardening?
That's my best mate, Dee Dee. We've been in a band together since my first nipple hair. She's an out and about, you know, muff diver, so I think because of that we do have a bit of a lesbian following.
Oh, well.
Provocative. Online comedy, but Lips is a new phenomenon on the web, and I think you will enjoy it.
And as I said, we were taping this before we got to see the Democratic Convention. We'll have our analysis of that next week.
We will, and hope it was okay.
Well, the platform was okay.
All right, well, election coming up soon, and be sure to vote, whatever you think.
Absolutely.
And we will see you next week.